The Blood Meridian movie is going to suck, everyone. It is almost guaranteed. And I was a believer when everyone online was like, it needs to be a limited series or it can never be turned into a movie. I knew that they were just holding on to Blood Meridian too tight. And with the right director and the right writer, Blood Meridian could be turned into a pretty good movie and maybe even a great movie. And I also shut off reality last year when it was announced that John Hillcoat was going to direct the movie because Cormac McCarthy was helping to write the screenplay. And even though Cormac McCarthy has struggled with a lot of his screenplays in the past, Go Read Whales and Men or even The Counselor, which are both fine and good, but not great compared to some of his fiction, I still wanted to believe, even though John Hillcoat hasn't directed really anything great since his 2004 film, The Proposition, I still wanted to believe. But yesterday, it was announced that the new writer for the Blood Meridian movie, because apparently Cormac McCarthy did not have the screenplay done, is none other than John Logan. And if you guys don't know who John Logan is, he is not who we want. And this is the list of his films. Some notable ones are Gladiator. He wrote Ridley Scott's Gladiator. The Last Samurai, which was not a good movie. The Aviator, Skyfall, a recent Alien movie, and maybe some other movies you recognize here. So look through this list and ask yourself, is this who we need? Because I like Sweeney Todd. I like Gladiator. I thought the writing was decent. But what Logan is dealing with in Blood Meridian is an aesthetic that only legends can touch, that is going to require so much cutting and thoughtfulness that would be hard to trust anyone, maybe except Cormac McCarthy. But this gets worse, you guys. You may be like, okay, Ian, you're freaking out here. But John Logan is also a liar because he made a statement about Blood Meridian, which is going to blow your mind, which is an absolute lie. And he says, quote, Blood Meridian has been one of my favorite novels since first reading it in 1985. It's a majestic, beautiful, and uncompromising book, and I'm thrilled to be able to bring Cormac McCarthy's dark masterpiece to the screen, Logan said. Guys, what is wrong with this statement? What went wrong here? Is Logan a fucking idiot? Does he think we're idiots? I mean, he does. This is, first of all, you could tell that this is a PR release, that this is the most inauthentic thing ever said. But what's wrong here, you guys? I don't think you realize that there are internet historians out there who know that from 1985 to 1992, Cormac McCarthy's Blood Meridian sold around 1,800 copies. And so if we think about the first year alone in 1985, I can imagine that was under 1,000 copies because it only sold 1,800 across 7 years. So John Logan, who was a playwright in Chicago in 1985, was one of the 1,000 people in the world that read Cormac McCarthy's Blood Meridian. You got to be kidding me. So this is what it's going to be. This is a watered down PR statement. Yes, I would love to engage in this and continue on Cormac McCarthy's legacy. And guess what? No one is going to ask him these questions. No one's going to be like, John Logan, why are you lying? You never read this book. You maybe are reading this book right now. So we have an amateur who is lying, who has honestly never written a good screenplay from what I've been able to see. I've seen a lot of the movies on that list, and some have been good, but none have blown me away. Like, wow, that was some really great writing. Most of the time, it's really cheesy. Even a movie like Gladiator that got a lot of awards, when I watch that back now, there are so many moments where I'm like, this is so cringe. And what makes this worse? Okay, so it's like John Logan. Okay, we kind of brought in maybe not the best writer in the world, but let's look at the rest of the production. Well, John Hillcoat is about as flat of a director as you could have ever gotten. Because Blood Meridian isn't some high noon flat movie like The Proposition. And I understand that he can transcend that style, but I necessarily haven't seen him do that yet. But the way John Hillcoat has directed, from what I have seen, has not been supernatural or transcendental at all. And I think when we're looking at Judge Holden and the men moving into the liminal space down into Mexico and kind of the fever dream that it becomes, it has to have some psychedelic or surreal qualities at some level if it was going to be a masterpiece. I like to think of Apocalypse Now as kind of a template, especially for some of the more intense scenes of the novel, like when they are in Chihuahua, like going crazy. Or the Comanche scene. I don't want to see just literal scenes. I don't want a lot of this stuff just to be as it happened, and have all the CGI and the effects and the multiple camera angles. I don't need that. And then when we're looking at how they're going to handle Judge Holden and how they've created characters in the past, I mean, who is John Logan's greatest character? Sweeney Todd? Even though he never even created that character. That wasn't a creation of his own. And that's another thing about John Logan's career, is that he adapts stuff all the time. And maybe that's why they brought him on, because they wanted him to adapt characters. Because he did a James Bond movie. He did multiple James Bond movies. He did some biographical films. a Shakespeare adaptation. So he is an adapter, but that's not, we need a creator. We need someone who's going to be able to bring not just a bland Judge Holden who appears normal to us. We need someone who's going to have a vision with all this. And this is not the guy. And John Hillcoat is not the director for a deeper vision. And I understand that Hillcoat and McCarthy had a connection and that's who he wanted to do it. And that's okay. And like I said, I think with some help, Hillcoat maybe could have turned this into something. But returning to John Logan, I see some negative personality aspects that may affect the film. And the first one being, of course, that Logan is a part of the in crowd of Hollywood. He is a leftist. He hates Donald Trump. He is an openly gay man living in Malibu. And that's okay. But Blood Meridian is an unapologetic film. It has violence, pedophilia, rape, the degradation of cultures, the N-word is dropped. And even more importantly than that, it shines a negative light on all of humanity. The Comanches, the white people, the Chihuahuans, and the Mexican people are not seen as positive people. There's no liberating thread like Zendaya in Dune 2, where I'm going to stay and I'm going to be a rebel, even though Chani in Dune was totally down for the cause. So I am 100% expecting there to be some manipulation of the text and some elevation of certain groups of people and yada, yada, yada. But something that we have that's good on our side is that John Logan said that he doesn't believe in cultural appropriation, which, my God, for a Hollywood director to say that is, great. And he says, quote, "I categorically reject the idea that artists cannot speak in voices other than their own. The balkanization of the imagination is a very, very dangerous thing. Writers and performers and singers have to be able to dream very freely." And of course, he doesn't necessarily follow that through completely. And he'll say, well, in my last movie, I hired a whole team of experts on Latino culture and I had them run through the text and make sure that everything was okay and was always talking to them. So there's going to be that element, which once again doesn't lend itself to Blood Meridian very well. But what's good about this book is a lot of it's there. A lot of the action scenes, a lot of these elements are there. And so if he just can transport it over, he doesn't need a team of experts. Obviously for the dress and to get everything kind of right on that angle, of course. But he can just kind of transport most of the elements of Blood Meridian over and everything will be okay. But now we have to ask the question, if they brought in a guy like John Logan and they're using John Hillcoat and there's John Francis McCarthy being the executive producer, I kind of understand where the casting is going. And there have been rumors for a while now that the kid is going to be played by none other than Tom Holland. And now that I've seen, the casting, I think that's going to be true. And to kind of support him, in the front and the back, my pick for Judge Holden is none other than Ryan Gosling. I really want to get a different feel and energy for Judge Holden because I think he's somewhat misrepresented in a historical sense. He's an emotional man who just is misguided. I think we can bring some of those elements to the film in a better way. And of course, at the Yuma Crossing scene, the audience is going to be kind of falling asleep and really not invested anymore. So I think there needs to be between, one of the characters, there needs to be, out on the river, Sydney Sweeney, and a love scene for a while. And maybe she goes on the journey, maybe she makes it all the way to the end of the movie. And last but not least, and this is Hollywood. And doesn't happen very often, but I feel like for this role, we need to bring a character from a previous movie into this one. And Judge Holden's dyad, the idiot, has to be played by no other than Simple Jack. And so those are my casting picks, Ben Stiller, Sydney Sweeney, Tom Holland, and Ryan Gosling. And then maybe Michael B. Jordan for Black Jackson. So I want to know now your serious and maybe not so serious picks for casting in Blood Meridian. Put your list down below. You guys honestly have some great lists, and I get surprised all the time. In another video, as this seems to be ramping up, I will post my casting list, my actual one. And I will see you guys in the next video.